AITA for dumping my girlfriend because she posted about settling for me over her ex? My name is Caleb. Until recently, I was in a relationship with my girlfriend, Jenna. Jenna was always a very social person. She was one of those people who are constantly surrounded by others, including friends, co-workers, acquaintances, and even friends of friends who somehow became part of her circle. She loved making plans. Spontaneous happy hours, short weekend trips. Any excuse was enough to get together with someone. She enjoyed discovering new places, trying different restaurants, and, of course, taking pictures everywhere she went. Her phone was practically an extension of her hand. I am quite different. It is not that I dislike social media, but I am not someone who constantly checks it either. From time to time, I will upload a photo or quickly look something up, and that is enough for me. For a long time, that difference between us never caused a problem. Until a few weeks ago, everything started with a trip. Jenna had been talking for days, even weeks, about the idea of getting away for a few days with her friends. It was a short trip to Florida, for days to relax and escape the routine. Every time she mentioned it, she did so with that infectious enthusiasm she always had when planning something. In one of those conversations, she told me clearly, "Girls only." Then she added, almost as a clarification, "Nothing personal, we just want to do our own thing." Honestly, it did not bother me at all. In fact, it seemed perfectly normal. Everyone needs their own space from time to time. The day she left, I drove her to the airport early in the morning. I remember that moment well. The parking garage was half empty, and the air still had that typical chill of the pre-dawn hours. Jenna was in a great mood. She was talking a mile a minute, the way she always does when she is excited about something. She told me the hotel had a direct view of the ocean. She also mentioned that they already had reservations at several popular restaurants and that they would definitely be going out at night to check out the local bars. We said goodbye like any other couple. A quick hug, a kiss, and the usual "text me when you land." Nothing out of the ordinary. Later that same day, she sent me a couple of photos from the hotel, one from the balcony with the ocean in the background and another of the beach. Everything seemed exactly as you would imagine that kind of trip to be. The second night was when everything changed. I was at home after work, sitting in front of my computer. I was not doing anything important, just watching some videos while finishing dinner. At some point, I opened a social media app almost out of habit. I do not even remember why. Maybe I was bored or just killing time. That was when a new post from Jenna appeared in my feed. At first, it did not catch my attention. She posted photos frequently, so it was not unusual. But when I opened the image, I understood why the algorithm was pushing it to me with so many reactions. It was a photo clearly taken in a bar. The lights were low. There were several drinks on the table, and Jenna was sitting very close to someone. I did not need more than a couple of seconds to recognize who it was. It was her former boyfriend, Dylan. Jenna had told me about him once, in one of those casual conversations where couples mention past relationships without much drama. According to her, they had broken up years ago and no longer had any contact. That was what she had always told me. In the photo, they were sitting side by side, smiling like two old friends who had run into each other by chance after a long time. But what truly left me paralyzed was not the photo itself. It was the caption she had written underneath. I can still repeat those words exactly as they were, because I read them far too many times that night. "He is a real man. Too bad I have to settle for another." For a few seconds, I thought maybe I was misinterpreting it. I read it again. Then again. The message remained exactly the same. That is when I noticed the comments. There were many, far too many, people reacting with laughing emojis, surprised faces, and comments from people who were clearly enjoying the situation. Some were saying things like, "Caleb, you good? This just got awkward. Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight." There were even several who tagged me directly. Interestingly, the first thing I felt was not anger. It was something different, a strange feeling, like a pit in my stomach. That sensation that appears when your brain takes a few seconds to process that something is truly not right. I looked at the photo again. Then the caption, then the comments. The post had been online for less than 20 minutes and already had dozens of reactions. I grabbed my phone and called her. The phone rang several times before someone picked up. When she finally answered, the first thing I heard was not her voice. It was laughter. A lot of laughter. You could also hear music in the background and the typical murmur of mixed conversations in a crowded bar. Finally, she spoke, Caleb. Her voice was mixed in with all that noise. Yeah, I replied. There was a slight pause. Is everything okay? She asked. The way she said it sounded automatic, almost mechanical. I noticed it instantly. I just saw your post, I told her. On the other end, someone burst into laughter. Then another. I clearly heard a woman's voice asking something I could not quite understand. Jenna answered something in a low voice and then spoke to me again. Which post? She did not sound confused. She sounded amused. The photo with Dylan, I said. There was a second of silence. Then she let out a short laugh. Oh, that. In the background, someone asked, is it him? Another girl immediately replied, yeah, it is him. The laughter started up again. Jenna did not even step away from the group to talk to me, nor did she lower her voice. In fact, she seemed to be enjoying the whole moment. What about the photo? She asked. Did you read what you wrote? Of course. Then you know how it looks. Caleb, she said with a tone that mixed amusement with a bit of impatience. It is just a joke. At that moment, another voice yelled from the background. Tell him not to be so sensitive. More laughter. I did not know if what I was feeling was anger or disbelief. It does not look like a joke, I replied. That is because you are overthinking it. Overthinking it. Yes. Then she continued, explaining as if it were obvious. We are at a bar. Dylan showed up here by chance, and my friend said it would be funny to take a picture. At that moment, one of her friends spoke near the phone. It was my idea. Exactly, Jenna said, laughing. It was her idea. And the caption was her idea too. There was another short silence. Then Jenna let out a louder laugh. Do not be dramatic. I am not being dramatic. Caleb, seriously relax. The voices around her seemed to be listening to the whole conversation. Is he actually mad? Someone asked. A little, Jenna replied. So dramatic. The laughter returned. Meanwhile, I kept looking at the post on my screen. The comments kept increasing. People kept reacting, and while all of this was happening, Jenna and her friends seemed to be having an incredible time. Then I said something simple. Delete the post. The answer came almost immediately. No. She did not even take a second to think about it. Why? Because it is not a big deal. Jenna. Caleb, we are on vacation. Her tone changed a bit. She no longer sounded amused, but rather like someone starting to get tired of a conversation she did not want to have. I do not want to argue over something silly. You posted that you were settling for me. Oh, please. That is exactly what you wrote. It is a joke. At that moment, another one of her friends chimed in from the background. Tell him it is humor. The bursts of laughter were heard again on the other end of the line, and it was at that instant that I felt something inside me just turn cold. I did not explode. I did not yell. I just calmly replied, okay. See, Jenna said right away. I knew you would understand. Enjoy your trip. Of course I will. Before the call ended, I heard the voice of one of her friends asking, what did he say? And Jenna answered through laughs. Nothing. He took it better than I thought. After that, the call ended. I stared at the phone screen for a long time. The post was still there. The comments kept coming in. People laughing, people tagging me, people who probably had no idea what our relationship was really like, but who now seemed to be enjoying the little public spectacle. Finally, I turned off the screen, and for the first time since it had all started, I stopped trying to understand what was happening, because in reality, I had understood it perfectly. For them, this was all funny, a joke, an entertaining moment during their vacation. What they did not know yet was that I had no intention of sitting around quietly waiting for them to return. After the call, I sat there for several minutes without moving. It was then that I had an idea. If everything was a joke to them, then there should be no problem playing along with the same game. I opened the photo gallery on my phone. There were many pictures of Jenna and me together. Travel photos, outings with friends, normal couple moments. I started looking through them quickly, not out of nostalgia, but almost out of habit. Then I opened the option to create a new post. I thought for a few seconds about what to write, and then I did it. The title was simple, 5 Weird Things My Girlfriend Does. I accompanied the post with several photos of us, completely normal photos like selfies, travel pictures, and everyday moments. Nothing strange. The photos were not the important part. What really mattered was the text. I started with the first point. Number 1. Doing her makeup with a foundation that is not her skin tone. Below that, I wrote a short explanation. I explained that Jenna had a rather curious habit when she did her makeup. She always chose a foundation that was much lighter than her actual skin tone. It was not a small difference. It was quite obvious. In photos where she appeared without makeup, you could clearly see that her skin was several shades darker. I also added that she always claimed the color change was due to the lighting or phone filters, though honestly, anyone who saw her in person could notice the difference. I finished that point with a very simple sentence. I do not know if it is insecurity or just a habit, but I have always found it curious how she tries to convince herself that nobody notices. Number 2. Using extra padding in her bras. In this part, I was quite direct. I explained that Jenna used to wear significant padding when we went out to certain places. It was not something she completely hid. In fact, she sometimes joked about it. But there were also times when she insisted that everything was completely natural. I wrote that once during a trip, the padding had shifted, and she spent almost an hour in the bathroom trying to adjust it before coming back out. I closed that point with a simple sentence. I guess we all have our little tricks to look better in photos. Number 3. When she went to a therapist because she thought she had an eating disorder, even though she actually ate in secret. This point was a bit longer. I recounted that a while ago, Jenna had gone through a phase where she said she was worried about her relationship with food. She believed she might have an eating disorder. According to her, she barely ate. But the funny thing, and something that always caught my attention, was that many times I would find her in the kitchen at night, eating in secret. I wrote that on more than one occasion I had seen her finish a whole box of cookies, while the next day she would insist she had barely touched any food. I finished that part by saying that I am not a psychologist, but it always seems strange to me to claim you do not eat while you are hiding to do it. Number 4. Talking badly about all her friends when they are not around. This was probably the most uncomfortable point to write. I simply remembered the many things she herself had said in private. I explained that Jenna had a particular skill. Every time she came back from seeing her friends, she always had something to criticize about one of them. One was too superficial, another was desperate for attention, another, according to her, was incapable of maintaining a stable relationship. I even mentioned some specific comments she had made, like the time she said her friend Ashley had an inappropriate relationship with a guy she met at a club, or when she criticized another friend for wearing too much makeup. She also talked about another who, according to her, tried to seem smarter than she really was, and another who, in her opinion, did not know how to dress well. I closed that point with a simple reflection. It is curious to see how someone can be so nice to people's faces and so critical behind their backs. Number 5. Using adult diapers for nighttime incontinence issues. Here, I was quite specific. I recounted that Jenna had a problem she felt very ashamed of. Sometimes, she had accidents while she slept. According to her, it was something that had happened since she was young and appeared especially during periods of stress. To avoid difficult situations, some nights, she used protection to sleep. I also explained that I had always been very discreet about it. I never mentioned it in front of anyone. Then I added one last sentence. But I guess we all have our weird things. And I closed the post with one more line. Some people post photos with their former partners, others are just trying to sleep peacefully. I read the entire text one more time. Then, without overthinking it, I posted it. For the first few seconds, absolutely nothing happened. Then the first reactions started to appear. First a few likes, then some comments, then many more. There were confused people asking if what they were reading was real, others who clearly remembered Jenna's previous post. In less than 5 minutes, my post was already getting more attention than hers. And it was at that moment that my phone started ringing. It was Jenna. I answered. This time, there was no background music, no laughter either. "What did you do?" was the first thing she said when I answered. Her voice had none of the amusement from before, only tension. "What are you talking about?" I replied calmly. "The post." Her voice was sharp. "Delete it right now." "Why?" "Because everything you wrote is private." I took a calm breath before answering. I thought we were making jokes. There was a brief silence. Then her voice went up several octaves. "This is not a joke. Your post did not seem very serious either. Caleb, this is different." "Different? In what way?" "You are sharing personal things. You posted that you were settling for me." "It was humor," she insisted. "Exactly," I said. "Humor." In the background, I could hear her friends' voices, but this time they were not laughing. "Delete that right now," she repeated. "Do not get upset," I told her calmly. "Try to take it with some humor." There was a fairly long silence, and then something happened that I did not expect. One of her friends spoke in a low voice, but she was close enough to the phone that I could hear her clearly. Is that diaper thing true? Another voice answered right away. Seriously? Jenna spoke to me again, but now she was much more agitated. All of that was private. Relax, I said. It is just the internet. My friends are here. Yes, I can hear them. There was another awkward silence. Then Jenna said something in a low voice, probably covering the microphone, but I could not understand it. I heard movement around her. Then, one of the friends spoke directly into the phone. Did you really talk badly about all of us? Jenna tried to say something. It is not what it looks like. But nobody was laughing now. Another voice chimed in. Then why did he write it? I did not say anything. I just listened. After a few seconds, Jenna addressed me again. Caleb, please, delete that. Are you sure you are not overreacting? It is not funny. Your post was not either. There were several seconds of silence. Finally, I said calmly, relax, it is just a joke. And I hung up. The call had lasted a little over 3 minutes. I stared at the phone for a few seconds, and then I had another idea. I had recorded the entire conversation. I uploaded the audio file directly into the comments of my post. Above it, I just wrote one line. For those asking if all this is a joke. The comments exploded almost immediately. First dozens, then hundreds. People reacting to the audio, others repeating phrases from the conversation, some arguing about whose fault it all was. Meanwhile, the notifications kept popping up nonstop, and then my phone rang again. This time it was a number I did not recognize. I answered more out of curiosity than anything else. Caleb, a male voice asked. Yes, this is him. There was a brief pause, as if he was looking for the right words. Hey man, I am Ryan, Ashley's husband. It took me a second to place him. Ashley was one of Jenna's closest friends. In fact, the four of us had gone out together many times. Oh, I said. Hey. His tone was serious. I wanted to ask you something directly. Sure. Is what you wrote in your post true, or is this some kind of sick joke? I did not hesitate. It is true. On the other end, there was silence. Then I heard a long sigh. Yeah, he murmured. I already had a feeling something was not right with Ashley. I did not reply. Do you know anything else? He asked after a few seconds. I mean, about what you wrote about Jenna talking about her friends. I thought for a moment. I did not want to make anything up, but I did remember a lot of things Jenna had said over time. I only know what she told me. I replied. Comments about you guys, arguments, things like that. What kind of comments? I mentioned some things I remembered, such as petty criticisms Jenna made when she came back from seeing her friends, insinuations about fights among them, and suspicions about problems in certain relationships. There was nothing I had not heard directly from her before. Ryan listened to everything in silence. Finally, he spoke. I understand. His voice no longer sounded surprised. It sounded tired. Thanks for telling me the truth. No problem. I had to know. There was a brief pause. Then he added, take care, man. And he hung up. I stared at the phone for a few more seconds. At that moment, I did not think too much about that call. There were too many things happening online all at once to analyze every detail. The notifications kept coming. The post already had hundreds of comments. Some people were arguing over who was right. Others were simply reacting to the audio of the call with Jenna. About 3 hours passed before my phone rang again. This time I recognized the number. It was Jenna. I answered. From the first second, I knew something had changed. She was crying, and it was not a silent cry. It was loud and uncontrollable. I hate you, she said as soon as I answered. I did not reply immediately. Caleb, she said with a mix of rage and tears. Are you listening to me? Yes. I hate you, she repeated. You ruined my life. Her voice was shaking. Everyone is making fun of me, she continued. They will not stop sending me messages. I said nothing. My friends, she said through her tears. My friends left. What do you mean they left? They left, she replied. They are all furious with me. I heard background noise, as if she were walking down a hallway. Then she spoke again. Ashley. What about Ashley? Ashley came back. Came back. Yes. Her voice started shaking more. She caused a huge scene and confronted me aggressively in front of everyone in the hotel lobby. There was a short silence. What? Her husband called her. He told her he knew everything, that he was filing for divorce. I said nothing. She thought I had been telling people things about her marriage, and when she saw the post, she just lost control. Another sob was heard. Everyone was staring. Everyone. Her voice cracked. You are a monster. Now there was no anger in her tone, only desperation. I thought for a few seconds. Then I calmly replied, that is unfortunate. There was silence. Then I hung up, turned off my phone, and left it on the table. The strange thing is, the internet does not turn off so easily. The next morning, everything had escalated much more. The post had already left the circle of people who knew us. Someone had shared it in a local city gossip group on Facebook, the kind of group where people post stories about neighbors, rumors, arguments, and anything that gets attention. That was where the situation got completely out of control. People who had never heard Jenna's name were now commenting on the whole story. Memes, screenshots, opinions from strangers, and then something else appeared. Someone had created an image using artificial intelligence. It was an image of Jenna, or at least something that looked a lot like her. In the image, she appeared to be wearing an adult diaper. It was obvious that the photo was not real. You could tell it was generated with AI. But at that point, it did not matter anymore. The image started circulating, first in the comments, then it appeared on other pages, then it started being shared in more groups. By the end of the day, it had practically become a meme. At first, I thought the situation would end there, but it did not. In the following days, new posts started to appear. Some people said that someone had printed that image and that posters were being put up near her workplace. I never knew who did it. I did not even try to find out. The only thing I saw were some photos people uploaded, showing images of telephone poles, walls, and some corners near her office where they had put up those posters. The image was always the same, the version created with artificial intelligence. Jenna tried to file a police report against me. A few days later, I received a notice from a lawyer, but the situation was complicated. Her own post still existed. That was the starting point of it all. There were screenshots, and there were clear records of the times when everything was posted. In the end, nothing came of it. The authorities determined there was no proof that I had created or spread the fake image. The only thing they could link directly to me was my original post. Nothing else. Our relationship officially ended a few days later. There was no final conversation, nor was there any attempt to fix things. We simply stopped being part of each other's lives. Jenna deleted all her social media accounts. First, her main profile disappeared, then the others. Little by little, the posts faded away. During the following weeks, I barely heard anything about her. The little I did hear came through mutual acquaintances. It was basically rumors that she had quit her job, that she was avoiding going out much, and that her friend group had been completely destroyed after everything that happened. The last thing I heard was that she had apparently moved to another state. Someone told me she had gone to live with an aunt she had there. I did not know if that was true. I did not try to verify it either. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what happened, and the truth is, I do not think about it too much. She decided to make a public post to humiliate me. I simply responded. What happened after that was no longer under my control, and that was how everything ended. That was the last I ever heard from Jenna. Comment. I want to take a moment to share a few thoughts after reading today's story. We often find ourselves in situations where our boundaries are tested and our self-respect is challenged. It is completely natural to want to react when someone hurts us or makes us feel small. However, true strength comes from knowing when to step away from toxicity to protect our peace. We cannot control how others choose to treat us, but we can completely control how we respond and what we allow into our lives. Walking away from a disrespectful environment is a powerful act of self-love. Healing begins the moment we decide our mental well-being is worth more than winning an argument or getting even. I hope you always value yourself enough to set firm boundaries without feeling guilty. Please continue to treat others with kindness, but expect the same basic respect in return. Thank you for spending your time with me today and for being part of this caring community. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.